Good morning, everybody. I've had some questions on Json. I've seen some Json issues running around, things like this. So I wanted to kind of go over some quick things on Json to help you get through your possible problems or things on how to kind of cheat. I don't know about cheating, just shortcuts. We're talking about shortcuts. Now, there's two ways to do Json. With American Litho, we import a lot of Json from different things, as well as send Json out both. So we do both sides of this coin. We got an interface to QuickBooks, which is 100% Json. We got all of these right here, which is what you're looking at. This code here is a request freight, so that way it goes to Estes, and it tries to give them the information in order for us to do a shipment. Okay, and this is for Estes Express to be able to see where the load is as it goes across the United States. So our question, our deal is that, okay, what's the best way to build Json? What's the best way to utilize Json? Things like this. And what I want to kind of go through here is a layout of how Json looks, how to kind of understand what you're looking at. And this is a simple Json here. This is one that I've been writing for an inspection on trucks and trailers. One of the things to do is that once I build a Json normally in our system, I will go around and I will make sure that we've got all of these set up properly. So the way we do that, or the way I do that, let me just a second here, let me get rid of this one, is I will take, let's say I'm reading one, I will take their example code, okay, and I will tell it to give me the ability here to utilize it. So that way I can tell it that, okay, here's what you normally look for. How do we work with it? Okay, and you can see what happens here is you got a company info in the description. Okay, and the way you do that is you come down to your external descriptions, and I can open this with my Notepad++. I've got it all set up that anything ends in .json will do that. You can see here what I've got is their example of what to set. I've set up the token, domain, now all this information that they want you to send for each individual down the line. You say, okay, well, how do I deal with this? Number one, I want to make sure it's correct. If you notice that you're seeing it in Json here, and that comes with a plug-in that goes JSON Viewer, and you can format the JSON, everything looks pretty. If I want to see it that it's been validated, I click the Show JSON Viewer. Now I've got every field, every layout set over here, and I know this is 100% valid JSON. Okay? That's what it is. It's 100% valid JSON. So to be able to use this, I then import it into my external descriptions, and very simply put, I tell it that the description, the ret JSON is JSON, and give it a description of company info which matches that. Now, that means I now have IntelliSense on this. Okay? I can do a ret JSON dot, and I've got every one of those fields in here to deal with. Every one of them. I can work with them. That gives me the IntelliSense, and that actually helps out when you're trying to resolve this. We have a couple things we do. If we want an empty field or only certain bits, we have a field JSON, which basically goes in, and what it does is loops through and gets an empty JSON and fills it up with either the member name being blank or defaults, and that sets that up. That's all that does. Overall, that makes it pretty easy because, to be honest with you, I don't have to I don't have to deal with, okay, did I name it right or I didn't name it right? Did I get the correct capitalization because it is case sensitive? Things like that, and you got to be able to make sure that you keep all that correct. Okay. So if I'm sending something, again, here we go. I've got the fill part of this, and I tell it that I want to fill the customer for my return value and send it. This is what I got. My content is in customer. As you can see, the in customer is JSON description equals customer customer. So I fill that in my application and send it directly to it and assign it to the content. Now I've got a JSON level content that looks like JSON coming through. No problem that way. This is my suggestion for the easiest method to work with JSON or even XML, because I do it with XML just as well. And the description helps you work with this nicely. It really does. Now, doing it the hard way. This is earlier code. Like I said, this is Estes tracking. This is for Estes trucking. And what we've got to do is send in a bunch of information to assign to each one of them and bring back information from them. Now, this one's only got one parameter, but I'll show you the content for like doing something a little bit bigger than this, but I want to show you this. When I get it back, in my first test, I stop it right at the response. In stopping it right at the response, I can look and see what the format is of the returned data. Then I can code this part. Okay? And I can code this part. So I'm gonna run this and take a look at it. We should have my test SCs right there. Okay, so we're in there. And I'm going to run this for one I've got. I really need to, no, I need to run for the second one, not the first one. Pro number. All right. Okay, so now we're in here. Let's go down to my response. Okay, so let's look and see what I'm sending in the request. Okay, in the request, this is a GET, so I'm going to open this up and take a look at it, evaluate the expression. So I'm sending, I've got the URL, I've got the different information, I've got upload, download, all this stuff is automatically done. Now the response is what I'm really interested in. I've got one or two choices. Once I got the response, that means the content has the raw JSON that's being sent back, and there's two ways to look at that. I can evaluate that expression, I can go get this and copy it. When I do, I can go back to my Notepad++, start me up a new one, put her in there, and of course that's kind of hard to read, so the first thing I need to do is get rid of that 10, but I can go to the plugins and I can tell it, okay, give me the JSON viewer and make it look pretty. All right, so now I've got everything that they sent me back. Everything is in here that they sent me. Okay? And I now have a layout of what's going on. Now, the other thing I can do is go back to the plugins here. I can go down to the JSON viewer and clean that up by showing it on the JSON side. Now I've got data and error. So my data has got the shipment statuses in there. It's got the movement history. Now I've got something to work with. I can kill it right here and use this to do my programming of what should come back because I've got every element that I need to deal with. The other way to do this is I go ahead and assign it to a JSON record. Now the JSON record I can right mouse click and then evaluate. And what do I have? I have the same thing I'm seeing there. I can see every bit of the information that I need to possibly work with to get out the data. Okay? So, what happens here is we get in to look at that, and the first thing I say is, okay, I need to get the actual delivery date. Now, the actual delivery date does not necessarily show up every time, because if it's not delivered, if it's still in transit, then you don't have an actual delivery date or time. You don't have those. You have an estimated. You don't have an actual. So the way to solve that problem and see that you got it is do a ... exists. So you're checking to see if the actual delivery date in the shipment status under data exists. If it does, then I'm going to go get the date and time, and I'm going to put it in my record and update the status and the delivered and all the little bits and pieces that need to be done and save the record. Okay. Otherwise, I'm going to go get the estimated delivery date, as you can see here. So I get the estimated delivery start date right there. And that's what it is, because that's the current status. That's where it is. Everything goes like that. Now, once that's done, you know, once I've coded that bit there, I've got that covered on what comes back. Now, the next thing it wants to go through is all of the movement history. Now, the Json only has return rec. It has the RET rec is the record, and then I've got data, and then I got movement history. So if I want to take one record out of the array that the Json is sending me back, I don't have to move it to an array. I don't have to do a deserialize. I don't have to do any of that stuff. All I have to do is define where I'm going. Now, understand this is all case sensitive. If I had a lowercase h here, it would not work. So it's all case sensitive. But you can see right here under my movements history, I've got 11 different movements to deal with. Okay? So I do for every rec move, and I've got an index on there because I want a certain one. I want to know where in the rows I'm going. Of return rec, which is here, data, which is here, and movement history here. Now I've got access to every one of these elements, and I can work with them. And that's what I do. I loop through that, and I work with them. Now, if you notice, I've also got here a for each S status of rec move. Here's what happens. Underneath the movement history, there's another array, which is the status, current status. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different, 8 different items in the current status of this movement. Well, I can't just go get one unless I want to just put a, like here, the description bracket 1, I'm only getting 1. I want to get to the last one, and I don't know if it's 3 or 8 or 23, who knows. So what you have to do at this point is that recmove has the current status in there. So I say for each status of the current status, give me that information. And I then update the tracking status information based upon that. And what happens is it loops through and gives me the last one is the last one that gets updated, and I know I'm there. Okay? Now I could, I just thought maybe I could do it with a ... occurrence. I haven't tried that yet. It could possibly work. I might try that just to see if it does a little bit later, which would give me a different way to do this. And it may be a pretty easy way to do it too. But I'll check this out. Right now, this does show you, from my standpoint, it shows you how to get a subarray under an array of records. So it's a good way to do this. Okay, it's a good way to know how to do this in case you do it that way. You've got to load every one of these. Initially, we were saving each one of these and then decided not to only save the last one. So that's the reason why it's kind of coded this way. But it does show you, say, for every record in an array, here's a subarray within it or a child array within it, and you can go forth and conquer. Okay? Now, you can build your own Json. Okay? This is showing how to import or include Json from somebody else. Okay? Because you may use a REST services like we do from trucking companies and stuff like this, as well as other places, or you may write your own and use them. Okay, so in writing your own, let's kind of discuss that a bit. We'll kill this one. All right. No, that's not what I want. I want another one. I got to open up another one. Sorry. This is I forgot which one I was looking at here. I need to get my web service one. I wrote a set of RESTful services for the company, the business up there, in order for them to deal with things. So I'm having a little trouble getting to their repository. They must have a problem with their server, but I'll be able to get to it anyway. So give me a moment here, and I'll drink a little sip of my coffee while we're doing this. We'll switch to offline work to get past that little problem at the moment. Okay. To give an example of building your own, okay? There's a couple of ways to do this. Now, this is older code. This is where we're actually serializing and sending it back. We don't have anything above and below it. But in essence, what happens here is I'm going to go fetch and create what we call a job form press list, which is basically how they've set up how they're going to print paper, how they're going to print a flyer, print a newspaper or a book, and it just says how many forms are on this and how they're laid out. Things like that is what it's for. In this, we go through quite a bit of stuff. Now, I'm going to go get stuff over here in what we call fetch job part list. We have another system called PACE. It's written by another company. We pull this information in from them, and what I do is I will come over here and I will do a select from job part. That's their database. It's a Postgres database, the way they did everything. And as I go through this, I create a record, job part record, and add it to a full array at the bottom. It's quite a bit of stuff. So you get down here, okay? So I add it to the array job part, and then I serialize that and send it back, okay? That's what I do. In doing that, that gives me a JSON data string right here that I can put into the job part array by deserializing it. Like I said, this is older code. So it's doing it in like you would do it in version 23, 24, 22. I think 22 had it, yeah. This is how you would handle it in those, because the JSON format, the JSON was a variant at the time instead of having its own JSON type, okay? Then I loop through it, and I have to do a lot more stuff to it, go get a bunch deal, and then I result the entire array when it's done. Okay? Once that's done, let's see what I got here. I've returned the array here, and I can serialize it and return it here. And it's a two-step process for that, because basically I'm jumping through a couple of hoops for it, is what I'm doing. And then what happens is in the web dev application, I'm getting that serialization of the array and deserializing it and putting it into an array there for people to start working with at that time. Okay? Okay, so that shows you how it's kind of done in version 23, 24. But let's go to the JSON of version 25 to do it and make life a little easier. Okay? So let's take a look at this. I'm going to look up in my code the put customer. We need to have, I need to call to it. Okay. All right. So here's where we're adding a customer where we've got all the different names and stuff that they put in. Okay. So I've created a rec customers JSON using my customer customers. The reason why that's there is because it is a you can send multiple ones. So the customers is the major or the wrapper, and the customer is an individual record within. Okay. So I can do that and get a blank customer record from doing the get customer. I bring this down and I can say, okay, so I got all the information here for the customer and running through it. Then I've got, okay, so go put this customer there and be done with it. The rec customer comes in and this sets up the content, which is JSON, and you move forward. It is so much easier doing it this way. Because the only thing you have to watch out for is, and I believe that I had it in my notepad. Let me just double check that company info. Here's the deal. We know that each one of these customers here, that's company info. Let me look up customer. That'll give you a better look on that one. So I'm going to go down here and come down and find customer. There it is. Yeah, this is what I want. So we're going to open that up. Okay. No, that's just one. I need more than one. Okay. This is the one I want. Okay. So this is the customer's file. You can see customers JSON, and this is an individual customer. I can have more than one in there. If I do this with the plugins and show the view, see, I've got the JSON and I've got the customer record here, everything I want, including, multiple, sub stuff with it, things like this. Okay. So I can put in a set of records and deal with that pretty easily. And what it does, let me see something here. Okay, so what we're going to do is look up where I'm getting all the customers for us, and I'm going to add them to QuickBooks, is what I'm going to do. We're checking three things in here. So I'm processing QB, which is our customer to watch, things like this, and I've set up an array in customers, array customers, JSON customers. The QuickBooks vendor is JSON with the vendor's query response vendor. That describes it. And then I got an array of those in JSON in vendors as well. So I go get all my data and I start working with it. Okay. So I'm going to check for a valid vendor, valid customer, create payable, and create invoice. That's for everything that I'm doing here. For valid vendor, okay, I'm actually going to call the QuickBooks query vendors method of REST and see whether or not that vendor is in there or not. So I get the array back, and I go through and say, okay, if it's 0, I'm going to add this vendor to our records up there in QuickBooks, so that way you can see it as a vendor in QuickBooks. So I have to assign the web, I assign all the data to the QB vendor, and then I do an add vendor at this point in time. Now, the QB vendor is a single record of vendor, as you can see. So that's what I'm sending the add vendor, and this is the same for customer, same for each one of them. Let's go down here to customer. Here's check for valid customer, same thing. I go through and I fill out all the information here. Understand, take a look at this right here, because this is important. You got QB customer billing address, city, state, and zip. What that does is just the same as what you see here, this billing address stuff. It is a subsection or sub-element of the overall element with multiple values in it. And the way you get those assigned is you go down to underneath it by using the dot syntax. Then you're off and running. Of course, now I've got the QB customer. I can go in here and say, okay, I've got the end customer. I check and see and turn off certain fields. Now, these are fields that are already there, but I don't need to send them, and I don't want to send them at this time. It's just a stub record. It's stuff we return back but not send. So I turn those off, make those false, and what they do then is it eliminates them out of the JSON structure that we're sending to QuickBooks as an example. Now, this works everywhere. This is just the best example I have right now, since frankly it's the latest one I put together. And be honest with you, if you're looking for QuickBooks help and stuff like that, Pete and I have gone through this and done a lot with QuickBooks. We have a class for it. Let us know. We'll be glad to give you a hand with it to do it. Now, this is QuickBooks Online, not local. So we got this, and what I do then is I assign the customer to the content, which gives me a JSON, and I get the response, and I look for when they return JSON as the customers, and I get the JSON, we're done. Okay? There's a little bit around the pike here a little bit. The question that was coming up is that if you don't try to get the array and then wrap your own stuff around it in text. JSON allows you to create things on the fly. So I can put two headers, you know, two elements. Then I can put rec data AR equals an array, and it will create the multi-array JSON element in there as it's supposed to be. So life gets a lot simpler doing it that way instead of trying to put it together as a string. Okay? Use the JSON, use it as it's supposed to be, and if you don't have your field, if you don't have the field in it, then you can create it. I'm going to write a little bit here just to kind of give you an idea. And I'm going to do it, let's see, my cust is JSON. All right, now I have the complete JSON record right here in customer. I'm fine with that. But let's say I want to wrap it with a header and a deal that the information's in the middle. Well, I can type that in and say cust data dot equals in JSON. Is that what it is? In customer. Now, what that will do is put three things in the layout of it. It literally will put cust data, then you'll see customer. So you have my cust data, then customer is the three elements you got in there. Then afterwards, I can do a mycust.error code equals blank, or I can put in mycust.date timestamp equals. And what that will do is then making a complete JSON of one. It'll have the top end. The top end would have something like this. Colon. You want to do it. Okay, fine. Don't want to get my carriage turned for some reason. Okay, so we got that, and then it would have customer. And then all of the customer information. The next one, this has to have double quotes around it, I'm sorry. Next one then would have error code colon. And the next one would have 2020 0819 0758 as an example. Okay. The customer information would, have every one of the fields for the customer is what it would have in there. But that would add these two pieces underneath that you wouldn't have unless you manually add them, because it will create those fields on the fly. Keep your mind on it. Do ask questions on our forum on Facebook. We do have that. We'll be glad to answer any question you have. But I wanted to kind of go over this to show you a couple, 3 different ways to deal with JSON. Work with it on either importing or creating and sending, things like this. The creation and send is probably the absolute easiest one to do. I'm going to show you one more on the send, which is utilizing the new methodology. So I hadn't showed you that. So I'm going to show you that, and then we'll close this off as a little 30-minute deal. I know you're here. There you are. Now, we do have videos out here on me building this. I've got to put together another one to show you where I'm at now. We'll see where that goes. There'll be another video on what this one is doing. I'm having trouble getting to all my repositories. There must be something here. There we go. It's taking its time. So this is a trucking inspection is what it is. Okay. And what I'm going to do is go over here to the configuration for web services, which holds my RESTful services, is what it does. Okay. Then I go down to all my RESTful procedures, and let's take a look at them. Okay. Fetch inspections is probably the easiest one. Now, what I'm doing is I'm sending it what inspections I want to hunt for, one or more. I have to put in this replace deal, so that way if somebody tries to do an injection using the semicolon, it doesn't go anywhere. It does not die. Okay. I got a join field list, and I do the select to get all of the information. These are utilizing their classes, which we do mentor on how to use and help people to get through this. It is once you get used to it, it's really pretty quick and easy to do. This is the hard part. I fetch the data, which gives me an array and puts into the array all of the records that I return, 0 or 200, whatever many it is. And then all I do is assign that array to the JSON and return it. We're done. So you could literally, if you're using HF, is create you an array to match your structure in HF and do an array or file to array AR. I won't do it this way. AR rec as an example, and put inspections. Now, basically what that does is take the whole file of your HF inspections and put it in the array. Then you do the ret JSON is JSON equals AR rec and return it. You're done. That's if you're going to do everything. Of course, you can filter it. You can do all kinds of things, with HF that you can do. And that's as simple as it is. It's basically 4 or 5 lines of code, maybe 6, and you're done. Like I said, this one's out on YouTube. It's also in one of the units where I'm building the entire application, and I'm currently working on the site. And I've got to put another section, and I really got to review what I did so that way I can start you off. There's been some backtracking and redoing, but I'll go through that this weekend and get it done. Okay? Thanks for paying attention. Good luck. If you have JSON questions, feel free to reach out. We'll be glad to help you. Thank you.